Hello everyone. Welcome to today's story. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted? What if the person you loved the most was hiding something from you all along? Imagine discovering a secret that shatters everything you believed in. Will the truth bring healing, or will it destroy the bond forever? In today's emotional roller coaster, Diep faces the hardest decision of her life. After learning a shocking truth about her fiancé, CEO James, will she choose to fight for their love? Or will she walk away forever? And what happens when her past comes knocking, offering her a second chance at peace with her ex-husband, Pao? Stay with us until the end to uncover the twists, the heartbreak, and the choices that will change everything. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and help us reach 1,000 followers. The truth is only a click away. Will you take the journey with us? The office was eerily quiet, save for the constant hum of a malfunctioning machine that seemed to mock James as it failed to come to life. He stood still, hands pressing down on the buttons as if his will could force the machine to work again. The factory had been closed for over 2 weeks now, and with each passing moment the pressure on him grew heavier. The weight of responsibility pressed down on his shoulders as if the very building might collapse around him, mirroring the cracks appearing in his own life. "Mr. Duan," James said, breaking the silence, his voice laced with frustration. "Call a technician. This isn't working." His eyes drifted across the room, taking in the empty space, the unprocessed wood, and the still machinery that once thrived with life. Now, it was just a hollow echo of what once was. "James," Mr. Duan's voice cut through his thoughts. "What are you doing? The factory's been closed for weeks. It's no wonder the machines are failing." James took a deep breath, turning to face him. "I should have handled this sooner." But it wasn't just the factory. The cracks in his personal life were beginning to show too. His mind wandered to Diep. How distant she had seemed lately. How her eyes no longer held the warmth they once did when they met his. He had been too caught up in work, in fixing things outside, to notice the things breaking within. This machine, like everything else, was beyond repair. And deep inside, James knew that maybe, just maybe, his relationship with Diep was on the verge of the same fate. Diep sat quietly in her living room, the soft hum of the city outside offering little comfort. The letter in her hands trembled slightly, her mind racing as she processed the words she'd just read. Her parents, whom she had believed to be long gone, were alive. The shock of it felt like a distant thunderstorm, rumbling in the back of her mind, too overwhelming to comprehend fully. For years, she had lived with the pain of their absence, of wondering why they had abandoned her without a trace. And now, just as her life with James seemed to be moving forward, the ghosts of her past had returned to haunt her. Her phone buzzed on the table. It was James. She stared at it for a long moment before answering. "James," she said softly, trying to steady her voice, "I need to talk to you." He arrived shortly after, his presence filling the space between them. He was as composed as ever, but Diep could see the tension in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. He always knew, but this was different. "What's on your mind?" James asked, his voice filled with concern. Diep hesitated. "I just found out something about my parents." The words hung heavy in the air. She didn't need to say more. The shock on James's face told her he understood, but he didn't know how to respond. He took a step closer, but Diep pulled back slightly. Her heart felt torn between the need to confront the truth about her parents and the comfort James offered. But could she trust him now? Could she trust anyone? Diep's hands trembled as she set the phone down. The conversation with James still lingered in her mind, echoing with unspoken words. The news of her parents' existence weighed on her chest, but it wasn't just that. A deeper ache had begun to grow inside her, an unease that had been brewing for weeks. Something felt wrong between her and James, something she couldn't quite place, but the seeds of doubt had already been sown. That evening, she followed James to his office. She hadn't meant to, but something inside her told her she had to know the truth. There, in the corner of the room, she saw it. An open drawer, a few photographs scattered across it. One of them caught her eye. It was a picture of James and his secretary, standing far too close for comfort. Their smiles were too intimate, their posture too relaxed, as though they shared something far more than just a professional relationship. Diep's heart sank. She felt her breath catch in her throat, the world spinning as if the ground beneath her was crumbling. Was this the reason for the distance? Was this the truth she'd been avoiding all along? She picked up the photograph with trembling fingers, staring at it for a long time before the tears began to fall, slow and quiet, like rain on a still afternoon. The next day, she confronted James. Her voice was steady, though her hands shook. "I saw the photo," she said, barely above a whisper. "You and your secretary. What is this?" James stiffened, his eyes flashing with confusion and fear. "Diep, please, it's not what you think, But Diep couldn't listen anymore. The image burned in her mind, drowning out his words. She had heard enough. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm leaving." With that, she turned away, her heart heavy with betrayal, unsure if this was truly the end, or just the beginning of a new chapter. The weight of the world pressed down on Diep's shoulders as she stood by the door, the photograph still burning in her mind. James' words had been a blur. The sincerity in his eyes, the regret in his voice, it didn't matter anymore. The truth was already clear to her. The trust they once had was shattered, irreparably broken by the image she had seen. James might try to explain, but could he ever make her believe again? She left his office without a word, the silence between them louder than any argument could ever be. Her steps echoed down the hallway, each one a painful reminder of the life she had built, and now, the life she was leaving behind. Diep's thoughts turned inward as she sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by memories of a love that now felt distant and unfamiliar. It had been too easy to forget the warmth of her past with Pau, her ex-husband, when she was so consumed with building a future with James. But now, with James lost to her, Pau was the only one left. The one person who had always been there for her. The one who had never let her down. Even after all the years they had spent apart, she found herself picking up the phone, dialing Pau's number. She wasn't sure what she was expecting, but the sound of his voice on the other end felt like a lifeline, pulling her back from the brink of despair. "Pau, I need to come back," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a pause before he replied, his voice warm but cautious. "Diep, are you sure, after all this time?" She hesitated, the question lingering in her mind. Was she sure? Did she even know what she wanted anymore? "I don't know," she finally admitted. "But I need peace, and I think I can only find it with you." As she ended the call, she felt a strange mixture of relief and uncertainty. Maybe returning to Pau was a mistake, but in that moment it felt like the only choice left. The days following Diep's departure were quiet. Too quiet. James sat alone in his office, the same empty room where he had tried to salvage his broken business, now the place where he realized that everything else in his life was shattering too. The air was thick with the weight of unspoken words, of things left unsaid. The space between him and Diep felt so vast, yet it was still filled with memories. Memories of their love, of their shared dreams, now tainted by her absence. James couldn't shake the image of her face when she confronted him. The pain in her eyes had been too much for him to bear, and yet he had failed to explain. He thought she'd understand, but the distance between them had grown too wide. She had seen what she had needed to see, and he couldn't take that back. As the days passed, James couldn't help but feel the gnawing emptiness inside. It was one thing to lose the factory, but to lose Diep. His heart ached in ways that the broken machine could never match. Then, one afternoon, he called her. "Diep, I know you're upset. Please, just listen to me. I didn't want this to happen." "It's not what you think," he said, his voice raw, desperate. "You saw the photo, but it was a misunderstanding. The secretary, she's been trying to manipulate me. I swear, nothing happened." But the phone line fell silent. "Diep?" he called, but the line went dead. He tried again, no answer. His heart sank deeper. It was too late, he realized. The trust had been broken beyond repair, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't undo the damage. James slumped back in his chair, his mind spinning. It had all gone wrong. But what could he do now? Diep had made her decision, and there was no way to change her mind. Days turned into weeks, but Diep's heart remained restless, as though it were constantly being pulled in two directions. The decision to leave James had been difficult, but once she had made it, she knew she had to follow through. She couldn't live in a constant state of uncertainty and pain. Pau, her ex-husband, had always been a constant in her life, offering her the peace she needed, even if it wasn't the passionate love she once hoped for. Still, as she packed her things, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was left undone, something unresolved. She kept telling herself that returning to Pau was the right choice, that it would offer her the stability she craved. But deep down, she knew she wasn't truly moving on. She was simply running from the uncertainty that haunted her. She could feel it like a shadow, always there, always watching. As she stepped into the car that would take her to Pau, Diep's phone buzzed. It was a message from James. "Diep, I need you to know the truth. I never wanted to hurt you. I've been stupid, I know. Please, let me explain. We can fix this, I promise." Her fingers hovered over the screen, torn between deleting the message and reading it. But then she stopped. What was the point? What could he say now that she hadn't already seen? The trust between them was gone, shattered like glass. With a deep breath, Diep put the phone down. Her eyes glanced out the window as the car began to move, her heart heavy but resolute. She had made her choice. This was it. There was no going back now. As they neared Pau's house, Diep's mind raced. Could she truly find peace here? Could she ever escape the doubts that now filled her heart? Pau opened the door to greet her, his expression soft, welcoming. But even in that moment, Diep felt an unsettling sense of loss. She had returned, but it wasn't with the same joy she once felt. It was a return to the familiar, but not the solution she had hoped for. "I'm here," she whispered, stepping inside, unsure of what the future held. The door clicked shut behind Diep as she entered the quiet warmth of Pau's house. The familiar scent of his cooking filled the air, a reminder of simpler times. She felt his eyes on her, watching her closely, waiting for some sign, some indication that the woman who had returned to him was the same one who had left years ago. But Diep felt different. There was a weight in her chest, a feeling of profound emptiness, like she had lost something precious and didn't know if she could ever find it again. Pau didn't speak for a long moment. He simply led her to the table, offering her a seat. His calm presence was comforting, and yet something inside her resisted. Could she ever truly be at peace here, knowing the truth she had learned about her past, her parents, and now James? How could she ever return to a life that felt like it was slipping through her fingers? As they sat together, the silence between them wasn't oppressive, but it was filled with questions. Pau's voice broke the stillness. "Diep, I know you're hurting. I know you've been through a lot, but you're here now, and that's enough for me. I won't ask you to forget, but I can be here with you, through whatever comes." Diep looked at him, the sincerity in his eyes undeniable. Yet her heart felt like it was still divided. She wanted to believe in Pau, in the stability he offered, but a part of her, the part that still loved James, refused to let go. In the distance, she can hear the faint hum of life continuing. A world she was once a part of, now distant and unreachable. She wondered if she would ever be able to return to it, or if her path would now forever be entwined with the shadows of the past. "Sometimes," Diep whispered, her voice barely audible, "the choices we make aren't the ones we expect, but we live with them anyway." Pau reached across the table, gently taking her hand. "We'll face whatever comes next together, Diep. No matter what you decide, I'll be by your side." But as she stared out the window, the sun setting slowly over the horizon, Diep knew there were no easy answers. Life had a way of throwing unexpected choices at you, choices that tested your limits and shaped your future. And while she might have chosen the safety of the past for now, the truth was that the road ahead was still uncertain. In the quiet of that moment, Diep realized that the most important thing wasn't the choice she had made. It was the understanding that life was full of contradictions. And sometimes, the journey itself was the lesson.
Diệp sau khi phát hiện sự thật gây sốc về hôn phu CEO James phải đối mặt với cảm giác phản bội, cô tìm một bức ảnh của James và thư ký của anh, khiến cô tin rằng anh để ngoại tình và đau đớn quyết định rời bỏ James, quay lại với chồng cũ Bao, tìm kiếm sự bình yên. Tuy nhiên James cố gắng giải thích rằng đó chỉ là một hiểu lầm, nhưng Diệp giữa quá khứ và hiện tại không thể tin anh khi cô bắt đầu xây dựng lại cuộc sống với Bao. Diệp phải quyết định liệu anh có thể tha thứ cho James hay buông bỏ hoàn toàn. Cuối cùng cô nhận ra rằng giữa những lựa chọn của chúng ta, dù đau đớn, sẽ định hình tương lai, và đôi khi hành trình chính là bài học.